Hey, Sarah Spain here, and I'm joined by Sara Gotfredson, the founder and CEO of Trailblazing Sports Group, and Keri Locket, Senior Manager of Marketing for Gatorade. I'm so happy to talk to you two today, and I think you both are working in really cool careers, but maybe ones that not everyone fully understands. So let's just start with the basics. And Sara, if you could tell us this pretty new role that you've got, this Trailblazing Sports Group, what exactly do you do?
I work with brands to drive investment in women's sports. So that's what I was doing at ESPN for 18 years, but mostly driving investment in men's sports. And I thought it was about time to dedicate 100% of myself to working with brands and driving investment in women's sports and athletes and teams and leagues and women's sports media companies.
Keri, Senior Manager of Sports Marketing at Gatorade is a pretty long title. What's the main focus of what you do?
Yeah, so I think at the most macro level, I oversee the Gatorade sports marketing portfolio for all of our team, league, and athlete relationships across primarily basketball and baseball. So in the basketball, NBA, WNBA, G League, and then also oversee track and field as well.
Let's go back a little bit and see how you made your way to where you are now. Sara, you had a marketing interest, but fashion and politics were the focus for a while there. And then a class in sports marketing sort of changed everything. So can you describe that pivot and then also that big leap you took in taking that first job at CBS Sportsline?
Yeah, so I was a senior at the University of San Francisco and knew I wanted to be in marketing, and didn't realize that you could work in sports. I grew up being a sports fan and playing soccer, and I took a sports media and marketing class senior year, and I said, "This is what I want to do." And it took a minute to find the first job at CBS Sportsline. I worked in tech before that, being in San Francisco. But that was the start of my journey, and I never looked back.
Big leaps and big risks are sort of the theme for you, Sara, not only when you were at ESPN, when you created a job that didn't exist, asked for it, and got it, but then also after 18 years there, deciding to leave and start Trailblazing Sports Group. To what do you, where did you find the confidence? To what do you attribute the ability to say, I'm willing to take these big risks and get these big asks?
Well, I think there's something, and I think a lot of you out there watching you get this and believe in yourselves, but it's really just betting on yourselves. And I have a tremendous support system behind me. I have a husband and two daughters who believed in me, who moved cities for my career growth at ESPN. And when I decided I wanted to take this leap, I just had a lot of people in my corner and also not being afraid to fail. You never want to start something and say, well, if it doesn't work, I can do this. But, at the end of the day, I've built a career and I've built my reputation. So why not try it and see what you can make of it?
Keri, you were playing boys tackle football in junior high, basketball and softball, softball in college. So you were that traditional athlete, play anything, anywhere kind of person. At what point did you realize that you could turn that into a job?
Somewhat similar to Sarah, I didn't necessarily realize that I could turn my passion and evolve that into a career. And I think like we all kind of have this, at least most athletes, competitive athletes, go through some sort of identity crisis when you sort of realize, okay, like I've just played my last game or my playing window is starting to close. It's important for everyone, and it doesn't matter if you're interested in sports or other, but just that you navigate your career on what fuels you and you find a job that you do that, on the worst possible days makes you want to get up in the morning and gives you that energy to kind of be uplifted and do that work. And, if you can do that, then I think the money and the promotions and all that stuff will follow.
How did you find your way to Gatorade, and what was it about deciding I want to be on the brand side, and maybe you can explain what that means, that drew you to wanting to work for Gatorade?
Early on in my career, I started to realize kind of by process of elimination that I wanted to be on that brand marketing side. I'd had a couple of internships, one on the team side, one on the agency side. On the media side, worked in a couple of different facets. But yes, I grew up around my dad who worked in advertising and marketing. And I'd always really sort of been intrigued by the psychological component of why people choose to associate themselves with certain brands. The apparel products you choose to compete in or what you choose to fuel your body with is all part of your personal identity. And that was what really drew me to Gatorade and really to brand marketing.
Sara, you're working to do that now. You are working to bring more of those sponsorships and investments and ideas to the women's sports landscape. And I wonder what the best part of your job is right now.
One of the best parts of my job is when I can talk to brands that aren't as established in sport and culture like Gatorade, but a smaller brand, an up and coming brand, and get them to think differently about investing in sport and get them to think about investing in women's sports. You know, some of these brands just don't even know how to invest in women's sports, where they should start. And so when I am successful at bringing a brand into a partnership that is new for everyone, that's really where I find joy in this.
Keri, you're a woman in a male-dominated business, maybe not as much, particularly the marketing side, but certainly a lot of the spaces that you're going into are predominantly male. What are some of the benefits and also maybe some of the drawbacks of being a woman in your job?
As a female, it's almost inevitable to a certain degree to face these preconceived gender role biases. So there's this added pressure to be over-prepared and show up in these big, meaningful ways. And to a certain degree, you know, also if you're the only female in the room, you're representing all women. So honestly, when it comes to your career, I think, you know, only you can decide what your limitations are and what your expectations are, and just move forward confidently. On the positive side, it sort of allows me to show up for all women and gives me an opportunity to bring other women along into the field, because in sports we definitely need to see more females in spaces, no matter what the discipline is. You know, it's one of those things, if you can't see it, you can't be it, right? So for me, it feels like a great honor and a responsibility to be in a position like this and to help bring other girls along.
Sara, you know, as a founder, CEO, or maybe even in those 18 years before that at ESPN, what did you find were some of the benefits of maybe being one of the few women in the room and sometimes the drawbacks?
I think hustle was always what I leaned into, and then just not being afraid to use my voice. I do think I was able to set myself apart by those things, and maybe because I was a woman. But I think really just being visible, and I think that would be my advice. And you know, I think you're always going to have some adversity. Like, life is not easy, it's not fair, and how you overcome that adversity and how you treat people in those moments where you just want to grit. You know, I have a saying, grit and grace. And there's definitely times where I grit, and then I try to exude grace in those moments as well.
Excellent advice. Thank you so much for joining us today. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Sara.
Thanks, Sara.